Okay, ready to dive into some fascinating stuff.
Let's do it.
Today we're tackling avian influenza, H5N1 to be precise.
Sounds like a plan.
And wow, you really sent us a ton of stuff this time.
Yeah, there are a lot of sources.
Government advisories, scientific articles, even a travel warning.
Yeah, it seems like H5N1 is everywhere.
It really does. So the big question everyone wants to know, I think, is,
Yes.
is H5N1 a ticking time bomb? Like, how worried should we be?
Well, that's a great question to frame our deep dive around.
I think so.
And judging by these sources, H5N1 is certainly spreading fast.
Seems to be.
And it's not just birds anymore.
Right?
We're seeing it in mammals all over the globe.
Yeah, like in the sources you sent, foxes and skunks,
Yeah.
mink, even marine mammals. It's like,
Isn't it crazy?
it's starting to feel a little Planet of the Apes-ish, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But seriously, though, why is this jump to mammals such a big deal?
Well, one thing it tells us is that the virus is adapting. And when viruses adapt, it can mean that they get better at spreading, maybe even to new hosts like humans.
Okay, not exactly what I wanted to hear.
I know, not the best news.
But before we, go full pandemic panic mode here,
Yeah,
how concerned should we actually be?
right. Good point. It's important to stay level-headed here.
Yes.
While the risk to the general public is still low,
Okay.
there are some early warning signs that are worth paying attention to.
Definitely. Well,
For instance, there have been outbreaks on dairy farms,
oh, really?
particularly in the U.S.,
Okay.
where workers are coming into close contact with infected cows.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So the risk is higher for people working directly with animals.
exactly.
Got it.
And that's where things get really interesting, actually. The CDC has been looking at PPE use among dairy workers in Colorado
Okay.
who were exposed to infected cows.
Right.
You'd think they'd be suiting up like astronauts, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
But the research shows that even after H5N1 was detected,
Mm-hmm.
many workers weren't using respirators, even when they were working with sick cows.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
so even people most at risk are maybe underestimating the danger.
That's a real concern, yeah.
Wow.
But there's another twist.
Okay.
Research in Colorado and Michigan found something really surprising.
What's that?
A significant number of dairy workers tested positive for H5N1 antibodies.
So they had been infected at some point.
Exactly, but many of them never even knew they were sick.
Hold on. Are you saying people can have H5N1 and not know it?
It seems that asymptomatic spread could be a factor here.
That's
Yeah,
that's kind of a game changer, isn't it?
it could be.
If people are infected and spreading the virus without symptoms,
Yeah.
it means the infection rate might be way higher than we think.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm seeing why this isn't just another bird flu story.
Right.
We have this virus that's jumping species,
Yeah.
potentially spreading undetected, and people aren't taking precautions.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So, big questions then.
Yeah.
How does this virus spread? And what can we do to stay safe?
Good question.
But before we unpack all that,
Sure.
can you just clarify what asymptomatic spread actually means
Oh, yeah, of course.
and why it's such a big deal?
Yeah, so when we talk about asymptomatic spread, we mean someone's infected with a virus and can transmit it to others,
Right.
but without ever showing any symptoms themselves.
So they don't even know they're sick.
Exactly, and that makes it very difficult
Oh, yeah.
to track and contain outbreaks.
Yeah, makes
Because people could be spreading it without realizing it.
Oh, I see how that would be a headache for public health officials.
For sure.
But let's get back to the practical stuff.
Okay.
How is H5N1 actually transmitted?
Yeah.
Is it like airborne?
Like the flu.
Well,
Can you get it from touching an infected bird?
it's not quite as simple as just touching a bird.
Although direct contact is a risk factor, for sure.
Okay.
H5N1 is mainly spread through contact with infected bird droppings or secretions like saliva and mucus.
Okay.
The virus can get into your body through your eyes, nose, or mouth.
Right.
So even indirect contact, like inhaling dust
Well,
or touching surfaces where the virus is present, can lead to infection.
so it's not just avoiding birds, but also their,
Yeah.
leftovers, let's call them that.
Exactly. Think about places where birds hang out, like parks,
Right.
farms, even backyards. These areas can harbor the virus,
Oh, okay.
especially in droppings.
So you're saying I should rethink that walk through the park?
Well, with all the pigeons there, it's good to be mindful, at least.
Yeah, good point.
And while we're on the topic of transmission,
Okay.
there's one big myth I think we need to bust right now.
You mean about eating chicken and getting bird flu?
Yes, exactly that.
I figured.
The Canadian health authorities have been very clear. You can't get H5N1 from eating thoroughly cooked poultry or eggs.
Okay.
The cooking process kills the virus.
Okay. Phew. Good news.
Right.
My weekend brunch is safe.
Yeah, you're good to go.
But
Yeah.
what about milk? Can you get from milk?
Oh, that's a good question. Pasteurized milk and milk products are safe,
Okay.
but they do advise against drinking raw or unpasteurized milk.
Yeah.
It carries a higher risk of illness in general.
So pasteurization is key.
Yes.
Got it.
Huh.
Okay, so we covered how it spreads, busted the chicken myth.
Uh-huh.
But what does all this mean for the average person?
Yeah.
Should we be prepping our pandemic bunkers?
I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, good.
Remember, the overall risk is still low, especially if
Right.
you're not in close contact with birds or poultry.
Right.
But as we've seen, certain groups, like those dairy workers,
Yeah.
are at higher risk and need to take extra precautions.
And speaking of precautions,
Yeah.
what can the rest of us do to minimize our risk? Do we need to start wearing hazmat suits to the grocery store?
Hold on, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
Before we jump into preventative measures,
Okay.
there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to discuss.
Oh.
What happens if you actually get infected with H5N1?
Oh, right. Good point.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, knowing the symptoms is key for early detection and treatment.
Absolutely, and that's where things start to get a little scary, right?
Well, the symptoms of H5N1 in humans can be all over the place, ranging from mild to severe.
Okay.
But before we dive into the details of that,
Sure.
I think it's important to address another big question on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
How dangerous is this virus really?
Ooh, good one.
Could it mutate into something even more deadly?
All right, now we're getting to the heart of it,
Yeah, I think so.
and that's what we'll explore next. So we've established this H5N1 is, well, not your average bird flu,
Definitely not.
and it has the potential to become a real problem.
Yeah, that's true.
But how worried should we actually be?
Right.
Could H5N1 mutate into something even more dangerous?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Avian influenza viruses, like a lot of viruses, they're constantly evolving.
Right.
They change and mutate over time.
And some of those mutations could make them more transmissible
Yeah.
or even more deadly, right?
That's right.
I mean, we've seen that before with other influenza viruses.
Yeah, definitely.
The 1918 Spanish flu, for example.
Right, that's a good example.
That was caused by an avian flu virus
Right.
that mutated and then spread like wildfire between humans.
Exactly.
So the precedent is there, but what are the chances of that happening with H5N1?
It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
The fact that it's spreading to mammals already
Right.
and has caused a few cases in humans, it means it's something we need to watch closely.
So staying informed is key here.
For sure.
What are scientists doing to track these mutations then?
Well, there's a lot of research happening right now.
Okay.
Scientists are monitoring the genetic makeup of these viruses.
So they're looking for changes that might indicate
Yeah.
the virus is becoming more dangerous.
Exactly.
So it's like this global surveillance network,
Yeah, you could say that.
keeping tabs on H5N1 in real time.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And that information is crucial for public health.
Oh, yeah, for making decisions
Yeah.
about, prevention, control measures.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's go back to what happens if someone gets infected.
Okay.
What are the symptoms we're talking about here?
Well, like we mentioned, they can vary a lot.
Okay.
Some people experience mild things like conjunctivitis.
That's pink eye, right?
Yes, pink eye, fever, cough, muscle aches.
So it could be mistaken for a cold or flu.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
But in severe cases,
Yeah.
H5N1 can cause serious respiratory illness,
Right.
pneumonia,
Hmm.
even acute respiratory distress syndrome.
And those severe cases are more likely in people with
Right.
underlying health conditions.
Exactly, or weakened immune systems.
So it's a real mixed bag.
It is.
You don't know how it'll play out in each person.
That's why early detection and treatment are so important.
Makes sense.
If you think you might have been exposed,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you've been near birds or poultry,
Yeah.
see a doctor right away.
What kind of treatment is there for H5N1?
There are some antiviral meds that can be effective,
Okay.
but they work best when started early.
So again, early detection is crucial.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
So early detection, treatment, key.
for sure.
What about protection? We talked about PPE for farm workers,
Right.
but what about everyone else?
Well, for most people, basic hygiene is very effective.
Like,
Washing your hands often, thoroughly with soap and water,
Okay.
especially after being in public or handling raw poultry.
Good old-fashioned hand washing, still the best defense.
Really is.
What else can people do?
Avoiding close contact with wild birds, especially sick or dead ones.
Right. Common sense, but easy to forget sometimes.
It is, and it's important to remind people.
Yeah.
And there are things you can do around your home, too.
Like what? Hazmat suits for your pet chickens?
Uh-huh. Not quite.
Okay, good.
But if you have backyard chickens, keep them separate from wild birds.
Uh-huh.
Make sure their enclosures are secure and clean.
Okay.
And avoid feeding them outdoors where they might attract wild birds.
Good advice.
Yeah.
But what about people without chickens? Anything else to be aware of?
Think about places you might encounter birds, like parks.
Right. Parks, trails, even backyards.
Exactly. Being mindful of your surroundings, avoid droppings.
Okay.
And if you see a sick or dead bird, don't touch it.
Good point. Report it to animal control or something.
Exactly.
So be aware, take precautions.
Yeah,
And if you work with birds, extra protection is vital.
absolutely.
Gloves, masks, that sort of thing.
Right.
It's worth emphasizing again that this is all evolving. Recommendations might change as we learn more.
Right. So staying up to date is crucial.
So knowledge is power.
Yes.
Staying informed is our best weapon.
It really is.
But there's one more thing that's been bugging me.
Mm-hmm.
What about the global response?
Oh, yeah. Good.
Are countries working together on this?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Good.
Organizations like the WHO
Uh-huh.
and the World Organization for Animal Health
Okay.
are working with countries around the world.
So it's not just each country on its own.
No, it's a global effort
Good.
because viruses don't care about borders.
Right. What happens in one place can affect everyone.
Exactly. So international collaboration is key.
And that includes sharing info about outbreaks,
Yes.
tracking mutations, research, all that
Absolutely. It's about pooling resources and expertise.
to get ahead of the virus.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot.
We have.
How H5N1 spreads, the symptoms,
Mm.
the risks, prevention, the global response.
Right.
What does it all mean for our listener, though?
I think the takeaway is
Yeah.
stay vigilant, but don't panic.
Right.
The risk to most people is low,
Right.
but H5N1 is something we need to pay attention to.
Staying informed, taking precautions, being aware.
Yes.
Those are the key things.
Those are the things we can do to protect ourselves.
Right. And we've learned a lot about H5N1,
We have.
but there's still a lot we don't know.
That's true.
It's constantly evolving.
It is.
Ongoing research and monitoring are vital.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating, really.
It is.
We're learning about this virus in real time.
Yeah.
It reminds us that human health and animal health are linked.
They are. Very much so.
And that brings us back to your question.
Oh, yeah.
Is H5N1 a ticking time bomb?
Right.
We've looked at this from all angles,
Uh-huh.
but haven't really answered that.
No, and I don't think there's a simple answer.
Mm.
H5N1 could become a serious threat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But with vigilance, research, cooperation,
Uh-huh.
we can hopefully prevent it from getting worse.
So there's hope, but we can't be complacent.
Definitely not.
And that's where our listener comes in.
Yeah.
Knowing the facts, taking precautions.
Yes.
Those things make a difference.
They really do.
I have one last question before we wrap up.
Okay.
We focused on dairy workers and people who work with birds,
Right.
but what about other professions that involve animals?
Oh, that's a good point.
Veterinarians, wildlife biologists, zookeepers.
Yeah,
They're all exposed to animals regularly.
they are.
So are they at higher risk?
Mm.
What precautions are they taking?
That's something to think about.
It is.
And it's a great example of how our deep dive
Yeah.
has opened up new areas to explore.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Ah, I like that analogy.
Every answer leads to new questions.
That's true.
And that's what makes this so intriguing.
It is. It really is.
It highlights the importance of staying curious
Uh-huh.
and continuing to learn.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Thank you.
So for our listeners out there, if this has piqued your interest, keep digging.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's so much info out there waiting to be discovered.
There is.
Maybe you'll even find some answers to those unanswered questions.
You never know.
That's the beauty of knowledge. It's an endless journey.
It really is.
It really feels like we opened a Pandora's box of questions here.
It does, doesn't it?
But that's good. I think it means we're really thinking about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's think about our listener for a second.
Okay.
If someone's feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this H5N1 talk,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you'd give them?
I'd say the most important thing is stay informed, but don't get alarmed.
Okay.
We've learned that H5N1 is changing, spreading,
Right.
but the risk to the average person is still fairly low.
So no need to stockpile face masks just yet.
No, haha. I wouldn't say so.
Okay, good.
We can still enjoy life. Those delicious omelets.
Yes, absolutely.
But with a healthy dose of awareness and common sense.
Which reminds me, you mentioned the Canadian travel notices.
Oh, yeah.
Should people be reconsidering travel plans because of H5N1?
It's always a good idea to check the latest travel advisories.
Okay.
Especially if you're going to places where H5N1 is more common.
Right.
The advisories will have up-to-date info and recommendations.
Including precautions travelers should take.
Exactly.
So it's all about staying informed.
Yes.
And making smart choices.
That's it.
And knowledge, as always, is power.
It really is.
The more we know about H5N1, the better we can protect ourselves.
I agree more.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered just about everything
Yeah, I think so.
on H5N1, at least for now.
For now, yes.
This is an evolving situation, right?
It is. What we know today might change tomorrow.
That's true.
So stay curious, keep learning,
Absolutely.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Very good advice.
Thank you.
And if this deep dive has made you want to learn more,
Yeah,
we'll have links to all the sources we use in the show notes.
great idea.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the world of avian influenza.
Yes. Thank you.
Until next time, everyone, stay informed.
Stay curious
Stay safe.
and keep exploring.
And don't forget, wash your hands.
Always good advice.